See if you can get some spiral on the anteater. So you get some right spiral on the anteater.
Spiral?
Yeah, you throw it like an American football, you get some right spiral on it. It's great. Let's talk about wrestling. In the world of Greco-Roman wrestling, there is one name that towers above all others, that being the name Alexander Karelin. Mostly known for his size and his power, he went almost undefeated his entire career, thanks in part to the fact he could do a move nobody else in his weight class could, a move that is now named after him, the Karelin lift. So, you guys, you watch much Olympics, Olympic wrestling, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Also no.
Okay. You don't want to see the Olympics? It's every 4 years.
Occasionally, but
Well,
I'm not a big...
obviously occasionally.
Well, like every 8 years. But I'm not...
You watch every other one,
really
okay.
into sports. I'm not really into sports.
Well, neither am I, but I love the Olympics, because it's like, when else you get to turn on your TV and go, I'm going to watch some curling. I'm going to watch some curling. I'm going to watch some judo.
Why watch it when you can do it yourself? Well, not at the Olympics.
You know what, I'll just go get
No.
my...
Curling.
No.
Yeah, I'll just go grab my curling stands.
But no, there's like places. I looked recently actually. There's places in Sheffield you can do curling. I mean, you don't have to be an Olympic champion at it, but
Well, I always like watching like taekwondo, because I did taekwondo as a kid, and it always back to every time I did taekwondo, my trainer would be like, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your fucking hands up. Every time you put your hands, and I watch like Olympic taekwondo, and they just stand with their hands by the side because they're so fast. Obviously, they don't need to put their hands up, because it's one of those weird things of like when you watch the Olympics, because obviously it gets refined to the point where all they're doing is trying to score points. And in a lot of like Olympic combat sports, it's like it's not like a fight to get a knockout or something. It's that you're just trying to score points. So when you watch like Olympic boxing compared to like professional boxing, where it just looks so much different. Where it's just Olympic boxing is just nothing but jabs. Like you're going for jabs and nothing but jabs.
Flurry of punches from the Ukrainian. Sousa doing his best to counter them.
Let's bring it back to Alexander Karelin, though, and the Karelin lift, because technically it is a variation of, and I have it here, the reverse body lift, which is a fairly common move in like Greco-Roman wrestling. It's not one you'd use much, and it's especially not one you'd use much in Karelin's weight class. And as you can see in this little GIF here, I've got a GIF of the thing there. So how would you describe just what Alexander Karelin's doing there?
Rather than flop. Yeah.
He's not displaying what we'd call finesse, really, is it? It does look a bit messy. And that's not because of Karelin, that's because of his opponent. Because one of the few ways to avoid that move once it's been locked in is to become dead weight to try and stop your opponent from lifting you up. The problem is that Karelin was simply so strong that didn't work. So the only real defense against it was hoping that he didn't throw your head into the canvas too hard.
it also looks like guy's flailing around a lot. So maybe that was another tactic, was just to like wave your arms and legs madly.
No, the flailing is because that's a 250 kilo man. That's the fact, because that is like a man of immense size being picked up for the first time in his life. And the reason why the Karelin lift is named after him, despite it just being a pretty common move, that's just a slight variation. And the slight variation is that there's almost no technique, it's pure brute strength on Karelin's part, is because nobody else in his weight class had ever done that move. In fact, it was deemed to be an impossible feat to lift someone clean off the floor in his weight class until he came along and did it. And as a result of being able to do that move and being the only one in his weight class who could do it, he went undefeated almost his entire career. Because in like Greco-Roman wrestling, there's a couple of ways you can score points, but one of the best ways to score points is to put your opponent flat on their back. And it's really easy to put your opponent flat on their back when you can pick them up and throw them into the canvas. Do you know the only way to defend against doing that?
Run away.
Well, you can run away. Running away was one. The other one is to throw yourself onto the floor.
Well, it's because it's worth less points.
Yeah, you'd concede 1 point instead of 2 or 3 you would be from being slammed. So a technique a lot of people would do is as soon as you try to lock in that move or they saw him approaching them, they throw themselves onto the ground. And that's one of the things I love and hate about sports, where people figure this stuff out, where they realise, okay, and I think the way it's described is it's technically not against the rules, but it's against the spirit of them.
Yeah, I think the most common one will be in football or soccer for the US.
Yeah.
When people just keep the ball in the corner because they don't want to lose.
Well, that's a great example, yeah. And it's like, it's not technically against the rules, but a lot of people consider it to be against the spirit of sportsmanship. It's against the spirit of the game. And in the same way in that, it's like, okay, yeah, that is a thing you can do, and on paper you will concede less points, so it is the optimal thing to do in that situation, but it's boring to watch and to fight against, and would probably piss someone like Karelin off, which it frequently did. So it only resulted in being more pissed off and doing it again.
Well, these like moves just remind me of during lockdown. Adam got this subscription briefly for like MMA fights from like the 80s and the 90s.
Yes.
There was this one fight, I think is pronounced Hoist Gracie. His technique was just he would just like get a hold of people and then like basically take them to the floor, and then they just struggle the entire time, wear themselves out, and then he'd win. Like he threw no punches or anything like that. He just grabbed them, take them to the floor, and that's it.
Anaconda.
Well, think about Floyd Mayweather. Like Floyd Mayweather, people were like criticising him like in the McGregor fight. Was all he did is clinch and throw jabs. It's like, yeah, he won that. It's boring to watch, but he won. Similar thing you had in the Muhammad Ali Aoki fight, I think it was, which is the first MMA fight, where it was like Muhammad Ali versus a wrestler, and what the behind the scenes the wrestler was told: you can't throw any kicks that are not delivered from the ground, you can't grapple, and you can't throw like punches or anything like that. So what he did is he lied on the ground like a dog and scooted across the arena and just kicked Muhammad Ali in the legs for 9 rounds. And you see during the fight, Muhammad Ali's like telling the guy to stand up. He's like, stand up and fight me like a man. He's like, no, I'm winning. There's nothing. And I see Muhammad Ali just stood there getting kicked in the legs. He's like, what do I do? What? And I don't think he didn't throw a punch like the 5th round.
Not speaking to you, Alexa.
But yeah, and there's plenty of examples like that from sports history, and very frequently people get frustrated by them because it's not against the rules, but it's kind of shitty to do. It's not good sportsmanship.
I mean, if I was playing against Karelin and he's the only person that I'm aware of who can just throw you to the ground and there's not much you can do, like, that's not fun for anyone.
Well, that's the thing. That's what made him such a terrifying opponent to fight. Because obviously, as his legend grew and he became undefeated almost his entire career, you get like scheduled to face this guy, and it's like you'd ask your trainer, "Well, what do I do?" Nothing. Like literally, there's like, "What do I do? Like, how do I stop him from doing the Karelin lift?" It's like, well, you can't. The only defense against it is to not get hit by it, which is almost impossible because you're locked in a small, like Bonesaw McGraw style, you're locked in a small circle with him. He's going to grapple you because it's a wrestling match, and the problem is like you're going to grapple him and he's going to grapple you. And while you're in that grapple, he's strong to just lift you up. And like there's fights where you'll see like people grapple him, and he just stands there and lifts them up and does it. And there's nothing they can do. Like literally nothing. They go limp because that's the only defense, and then he still does it.
I'd retire. Like, what's the point in the sport if there's another person in it who is impossibly better than you?
Well, you got like at that point you're fighting for second place. And most people were. And like his strength, his speed, he's like just phenomenal flexibility. That's another thing. Like he did ballet to maintain flexibility, so he was like surprisingly agile as well. Because you just think like huge, big, brutish guy. Oh, like maybe I can like get his legs or something. It's like no, because he had like amazing flexibility as well. So he's almost no position you could grapple him from where he couldn't defend, and he became known as the Experiment. That was his nickname, just the Experiment, because yeah.
Just sounds like a nickname for the Hulk.
Well, you mentioned the Hulk. He is believed to be one of the inspirations for the character of Zangief from Street Fighter. And you look at him and you go, yeah. Like, because here's the thing as well. Here's the picture I used in the article just of him. Like, this is him midway through doing the move. Oh shit, turn the screen off. Right, this is him midway through doing the Karelin lift. Are you ready? Just, what would you do if that man is
he looks like a human jack-o'-lantern. Just his eyebrows are so...
It's more just the fact that he's just like... And
every muscle's just popping.
And keep in mind as well, that's someone trying not to be lifted. They're trying so hard not to be lifted, and there's nothing they can do. And that's amazing. I love like when you get stories like this. Obviously, it's one of the things where it's simultaneously boring to watch, but also kind of interesting, because what about if he loses? It's like those things when you watch like undefeated fighters. It's like, well, either you're going to witness like the streak continue, which is history in itself, or maybe an underdog's going to knock him down. Maybe someone will score a point. And this guy went like 10 years without conceding a single point. And there are fights where you can visibly see people cowering from him. Like they run away. People run away. They will be visibly scared of him. And these are like, several, like, 100-pound dudes, like a couple 100 kilos in some cases, facing down. Because he fought in the super heavyweight division, so there was literally nobody bigger than them in their divisions. And they are scared of him. Well, this just reminds me, though, like, speaking of, like, forbidden techniques, obviously, like, this is not against the rules. It's not against the rules to pick someone up. And people did try to complain of, like, well, it's dangerous. Like, the men in this weight class are so heavy that doing this move could pose serious risks. It's like, well, it's not banned in the lower weight class. You have to ban it in the lower weight classes then, and it's a completely fair move there, so it's fair game. And it's just the fact that only he could do it. And I love when that happens in sports. Like we talked previously about Surya Bonnelly, if you remember that. She was the figure skater who could do a backflip. And she was one of the only people in the world who could do a backflip on ice skates. And so many people complained that they banned doing that move in competition because it was dangerous. And so, it's dangerous to do a backflip. And then Surya Bonnelly's like, well, no, it's not. And she did, very infamously, a one-legged backflip on a broken heel. Got a silver medal, despite the fact she'd done a one-legged backflip. And instead of bowing to the judges, as is customary, bowed to the audience, showing the judges her ass. Because she was so annoyed that, because one of the things that would happen is she would do the backflip in training. And they'd go to the judges and say, well, can you make Ms. Bonnelly stop doing backflips? It's like, why? It's dangerous. It's like, well, she's doing it in her own. It's like, no. And at least we have to know Surya Bonnelly was black. So there's some history of, like, just people didn't like her being the best in the world. We've had that story multiple times. There's that amazing gymnast. I forget the name of it. Do you remember, like, the gymnast who was like, she could do that crazy ass move. Like, she had like 4 moves named after her. And she kept getting banned from doing. I'm just going to put in best gymnast in America right now. I bet we get a name. Simone Biles. There we go. Because she's got like 4 moves named after her. And similarly, she would get told not to do these moves in competition because they were dangerous. It's like, well, they're not. I invented them. They're my moves. Fuck you. And it's just one of those things like, yeah, you're too good, so we've got to nerf you in real life.
I think we should name some kind of move after Karl.
There isn't any move named after me.
What about Boop in the Snoots?
No, Boop in the Snoot.
I think we call the Smallwood Boop.
Well, it's not, is it? 'Cause that's been a thing online for ages, hasn't it? Boop in the Snoot. Well, I'm reminded as well, like,
Somebody had a toy anteater.
bring it back to the world of, like, huge buff men slamming into each other. Did you ever hear that story about that rugby player who got banned? Because he was doing a thing that technically wasn't against the rules, but so many people complained about.
Is this the guy who put his finger up people's
It's the guy who put his fingers up people's
It's
bums.
against some rules, Karl. It might not be against the official rules. But
So, Nisha, do you know about this?
No.
There was a rugby player, I forget his name, but it will be in like a fact bar on the screen right now.
Fondler, I believe he was called.
And what he would do is, in the scrum, he would just put his fingers all the way up his opponent's ass.
In the scrum,
Like, he put it in the bum in the scrum, yeah. And that's the thing. And people complained of like, can you stop him doing this? And they're like, well, it's not against the rules. Like, there's no rule that says you can't shove your finger up your opponent's ass because no one's ever done that. And they had to write it into the rules to stop people. It's that thing of like, he just did it until it was against the rules. And it's just that thing of like, I love the idea of him reading the rules. Like, hang on a second. There's nowhere in this that says I can't shove my fingers all the way inside him.
Oh my god.
And that's the thing as well. That's going to cause some fear. You're not going to want to get in a scrum with that guy, are you?
I mean, we've all had someone poke us in the bum, like, just, yeah, and you'd leap up immediately.
Exactly, and it worked. And that's why they had to nerf it. It was too strong.
Oh my god. It's like those rules you see when there's like rules on like really obvious things like don't do this. You think, well, you obviously don't do that. Someone's obviously done that at
The
some
rugby
point.
rulebook has a little line somewhere that says no fingers up players' bums, please.
But it's just one that they never thought to make it a rule because they didn't think they thought it was obvious that no. But then someone realised, well, it's not against the rules and there's nothing you can do about it.
Lucas, can you please put in the clip from Game of Thrones of a Euron Greyjoy going, finger in the bum?
A finger in the bum. Not now. We'll talk later.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's kind of like these things. Like, I don't know, for example, if you saw a poster that says "Please do not lick the wet paint" or something like that, you think, well, obviously, but someone's done that for them to write that.
Yeah, and it just...
It's like do not eat on the silica gel. Like you're eating some jerky, and obviously at some point somebody's gone, ooh, white paper jerky.
And it's just, yeah, it happens so much in the world of sports, and every time it does, I'm always fascinated by it. And one that Lucas was editing this video, we'll put a clip in of if you can find it, because he told me about it, is there was a rule for years in BattleBots. In BattleBots, there was a rule against entanglement. Like, you weren't allowed to use, like, nets or ropes or string or anything like that to entangle the opponent's robot. And then one year, they took that rule out of the rulebook for some reason. And one team read the rules closely enough to notice that entanglements was no longer a thing, that was against the rules. So they built a robot with a little net, a tiny little net, and they went into a match and they threw their net on the opponent, kicked its ass, and this is why I hate this, the other team got salty, demanded a judge come down and say it's against the rules. Got the rules out? No, it's not. Okay, but it was last year, but it's not now. And they bitched and they moaned so much, they made them redo the fight without the net, and the other team lost. And in that, I get so pissed off at that. So I think what you should do is you hold it up as an example and go, okay, you're allowed to do it this time. Fair play. You figured something out. We're going to put it. This is why it should be against the rules. And next year we'll put it back in. Well, the fact that the team who lost got so salty, they bitched and they moaned like long enough to get the other person like disqualified, even though it wasn't against the rules. I hate that. I hate that they can do that. So bringing it back to Karelin, throughout his career he had about 800 fights and he lost twice. And once is because he injured himself because his opponent was simply too fat to lift. And his final loss was especially infuriating for him because he lost by a single point. And he lost that point due to a recent rule change he wasn't familiar with. So quite similar to what we talked about in the little tangent we just went on, unless there's no clips of it in or Lucas cut it out. No, and he was so annoyed at this. You can see him when he loses the point, visibly pissed off. And he gets even more pissed off. This goes back to what we talked about right at the start of it's not in the spirit of competition. It's not against the rules, but it's not in the spirit of competition because his opponent, realizing he was winning by a single point, just lied down on the floor for the rest of the match so that Karelin couldn't get the point. And when, the final, bell was called and the official said, okay, so the other guy's the winner, Karelin quit on the spot. He retired forever from the spot, and basically that is one of two blemishes on his otherwise perfect 800 fight long career. Because the guy just realised if I lie down on the floor, there's nothing he can do.
If I lie here and do nothing, I win.
If I lay here.
It reminds me, I guess Lucas could put the clip in of there's an amazing compilation out there of for gamers, infamously Smash Bros has some of the strongest AI in a video game. And there's just a clip out there that goes around every now and again of here's just a Luigi winning against level 9 AI by doing nothing. Because the AI is so good at predicting movements, but for some reason if you stand still it can't handle it. So just the AI will run off the edge and kill itself. Just winning without doing anything is always one of those things, just stand perfectly still. It's speaking of the Olympics, the guy who did that. There's a very famous Australian ice skater, I believe it was, who, speed skater, sorry. And he managed to win because he somehow made his way into the Olympics and no one thought he was going to do very good. But it was one of those things where no one else, put themselves forward for that, event that year. So by default, he got sent through. And his thinking was, okay, what I'll do is I'll just hang back. Because in speed skating, very often people crash at the first turn because they go so fast they'll crash. And he said, I'll just hang back, and then if there's a crash, I'll sneak in, and maybe I can get third place. And during I think it's the qualifiers, there was a big crash, so he comes in and he wins. I was like, okay, that's great. I'm in the final, and he said, what I'll do is I'll do it again, and maybe I can get bronze, maybe fourth or something like that. Exact same thing happened again. He got gold, and he's like. He doesn't understand how he won because everyone just crashed and he just goes over the finish line. I guess I won. I guess I'm the best speed skater in the world. And it's amazing.
It feels like that's something out of a film. I can't think of it. Everyone else has crashed or something and someone just goes past the line, everyone cheers. And
there's a couple of films by it. It's Eddie the Eagle, isn't there? Where he just entered because there was no one else entered for the ski long jump that year. Cool Runnings. Of Jamaica sprinters just go to the Winter Olympics because no fucker else is going to compete. So by default, we get to represent our country at the Winter Olympics, which is roughly based on a true story. And it's been a thing for a while, but there's so many cases of that of just random people going to the Olympics because they just go in for those obscure events that no one in their country really does, and just by default get to qualify in the Olympics. And I hate this. Has cracked down on that in recent years, where they put minimums that you have to do. Because previously it was just whoever wins whatever qualifier you do gets to compete, and sometimes you end up with just fuckers who didn't know what they were doing. And they say it brings the prestige of the Olympics into disrepute. But I love it I love when just random people end up at the Olympics. It's so good. Probably mention, for anyone who's watching at home, like if you're watching this video, if you like the shirt that I'm wearing, we currently have pre-orders open for it. That's the Sage of Secrets. You can find it in the links below. It's a collaboration between ourselves and an artist, Baby Senpai. And
Stand up, give us a full view.
Okay. So the wiggle it on. There we go.
Slightly off centre.
But there we go, yeah. So that's just a little bonus. If you do want to pre-order the shirt, you can do so. But if you send us proof of the pre-order on our socials, you'll gain access to like a little draw we're going to do to send the prototype, which is slightly different from this design. It'll be signed by the entire team anywhere in the world. Just send proof of purchase to our socials, and you could be in a chance with winning it.
Also, speaking of t-shirts, if you join our Patreon,
yes,
you get 10% off our t-shirts,
including this one, yeah.
Including that one, and also you get a chance to win monthly competitions. So win a free t-shirt.
Yeah, and if someone out there's lucky enough, like some of the people we talked about today, like Riasa, just the universe smiles on them, they could get 3 t-shirts for the price of one, because they could go sign up to our Patreon, the cheapest tier, go buy the pre-order for this shirt, which will be cheaper than just getting the pre-order on its own, because the 10% discount actually saves you more money than you pay on the Patreon. Then send us proof of that purchase on our socials, and then, as a member of the Patreon, they'll get added into the draw for the t-shirt time thing we do once a month, where they can win another free t-shirt, anything from the Psycho store that we'll send to them. But also, they could potentially win the prototype version of this shirt signed by us.
So many shirts.
If you win all 3 of those, we'll all come around your house and we'll nail t-shirts to you until you become a t-shirt. And then you'll be worn by us in future videos.
I've always wanted to do that. Did you ever see that, like... No, did you ever see that, like, great...
I'm gonna wear you like a shirt.
No, there was that great, like, back and forth between Ryan Gosling and Macaulay Culkin, where they just kept wearing t-shirts with each other on.
It'd be really funny if someone sends us a photo of them wearing the t-shirt, and then you can obviously get that printed and wear a photo of that person in the t-shirt.
Well, it's like Lucas has a shirt that just has pictures of his dog on it. And I said to him, I want to get a shirt, but it's you wearing that shirt. So just Lucas wearing his shirt with his dog on it, and then we just keep buying each other those shirts. Oh.
We should make shirts that have our faces on, and we should just all wear them on a night out together. So you're wearing me, and I'm wearing these shirts.
I love those joints. One of the saddest items of clothing I own is it's one half of a pair of t-shirts my ex got me, and it has Go 10 and Trunks on it doing the fusion dance.
Oh, yeah.
And the joke was we'd always wear the opposite ones, but I still have like the Go 10 one. So just whenever I wear it, I just look down and go, oh.
One of these days, you're going to be on a night out, and across the dance floor, you'll see a person wearing the other half.
Oh, it's like I remember when I first came to uni. I was in like a big house share, and one of my housemates just in the kitchen, as we were shuffling past each other in the kitchen, he shuffled past, and I just went, oh, and he started doing the fusion dance. Oh, get me a t-shirt with your face on it. You've seen that like picture online, and it's just that woman. It's like this woman's clearly pissed off with losing her luggage, and it's just it's a giant picture of her own face on her own luggage.
It's like when you get those lads that go on the lads' holidays and they've got a t-shirt with a girlfriend's face on it saying, yeah, he's taken.
I was like going to mention the ones from the In-Betweeners. The Poussey Patrol. The t-shirt says, Mr. I Touch Kids.
There wasn't one that says, like, it's not Jay's, it says something like...
It's Mr. Big Dick.
Oh, Mr. Big Dick, yeah. It should just be Big Wang.
And the logo, just a cat with a massive erection. It's so dumb. Oh, yeah, I love those ones, though. Just the t-shirts with your girlfriend's face on it. It's like, oh, Siri, show me a fucking relationship that's not very healthy. Oh, I do love those ones, those putting people's faces on t-shirts. So good. So you want to win our t-shirt, you can do so.
You should get Carl's set up with Karl presenting on a t-shirt.
I'd be so weirded out. I'd be like, why do you own this? Why did you pay money for this? It is. I always love as well the people you can tell they want you to talk to them about the thing on their t-shirt. It's like, I'm going to win all that person. Do you know when they rock up and they're wearing a t-shirt that just says something like big